Welcome to Long Island Talks with me, Mace in your face, and Dr. Gene. Let's get work together. Tonight's special guest is... Had to change my cue screen.
Whitcomb.
Who became sheriff on August 18th in 2009. Sheriff Whitcomb was elected in November 2009 to a full 4-year term commencing January 1, 2010. Since 1977, he's been in law enforcement, including 7 years working major crimes in the Criminal Investigation Bureau. It was in this role that he was recognized as the Blue and Gold Officer of the Year in October 2000. Sheriff Whitcomb possesses a master's degree in counseling education from St. Bonaventure University and is certified police instructor in the areas of interview and interrogation, basic and advanced juvenile officer training, the investigation of sex crimes, and the law enforcement response to school violence. Sheriff Whitcomb is a graduate of the 206th session of the FBI's National Academy, and his specialized training includes crisis negotiation with the LA Police Department, death scene management with the FBI, and a sex offense seminar with the New York State Police. He has also recently been certified as a SWAT team fitness specialist. He's also a past president of the State of New York Police Juvenile Officer Association. He's an active instructor for NYSD CJS and a private consultant for educational seminars on post-traumatic stress disorder and law enforcement suicide. And I just learned and found out that PTSD does not mean pass the sexual disease.
No matter what subject we're talking about, no matter how serious it is, you've got one thing on the mind. That's called OCD disease or disorder. Obsessive compulsive disorder.
I thought I had obsessive joking disorder.
Yes.
OJD.
Oh, JD. Okay, so you're the joker.
Yeah.
So who am I? Straight man?
Straight man.
Or straight lady?
Well, you claim you're a straight lady.
We won't argue about that, right?
No, we had that argument last week.
Yes, okay. We don't want to have the same argument twice.
Oh, why not?
Then they'll think we're a married couple.
That's right, that's where we can't do it.
And we'll have to go see you for divorce, right?
Yeah.
All because two people got drunk, and then you changed it to all because two people fell in love.
Well, the sign in my office is all because two people once fell in love, and I want to get custom made, or all because of one night of too much drugs and alcohol.
Okay. Both.
So, Tim. Sheriff Tim, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yes. Hi, Tim. Thank you so much for being on with us. I know you have quite a story. I heard it at our gathering at Russo's, but this is unbelievable, really. But I believe it. It's 100% true.
Yes.
And I believe you because you're not a lawyer. Are you still a sheriff, or are you retired?
I am just entered my 30th year of law enforcement and currently serving my 10th year as elected sheriff.
Awesome.
Wow. So you're fully active on duty.
Yes.
How do you avoid PTSD?
Oh, I don't think I have.
Okay. You have your share of it, but you've managed it.
That's right. Yeah, manage is the key word.
You also have a degree in counseling from St. Bonaventure?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, does that help you in any way manage it, or do you get counseling? Do you do peer counseling? I know you have a lot of programs upstate that we're trying to replicate down here along with the post-tour processing.
Yeah, well, I'm a firm believer that part of managing it is understanding it. So certainly knowledge is power.
Yes.
Understanding the way that we as living creatures respond to traumatic events and some of the changes that it may invite into our worlds. Once you start to recognize it and process it for what it is, you can dance to the music a little better.
Tim, just so our audience can better understand, what are the types of things that law enforcement encounters that causes the PTSD? Can you give a few specific examples?
Sure. Well, there's acute stress reactions, and then there's also post-traumatic stress reactions. There's a litany of things that could be the catalyst to having some type of a response that manifests itself in such a way that it starts to attack some of your quality of life.
In other words, I mean, the example that everybody is familiar with is 9/11. That was extreme, and people were taken care of and compensated as need be because that was so all-encompassing.
Yeah, that's correct. The unique thing about post-traumatic stress disorder is it's the only disorder in the DSM-5 that's generated through exposure. So that exposure can come from one catastrophic event or several events that add up in a cumulative fashion. So an event like 9/11, catastrophic, can challenge an awful lot of first responders, just that one event in itself. Mm-hmm. But all too often, first responders that have worked for decades in law enforcement or firefighting or corrections, communications,
Ambulances.
events, sure, absolutely. Events add up.
All the time.
All the time, and they're injurious in nature.
And they're not
Left on our own
processed
accord.
properly after duty unless somebody has a specific problem where it's called to the attention of the authorities. The tendency was, at least in the past, that there wasn't really an opportunity to process the small day-by-day events like having to walk out in the street and feel like you're fighting with everybody, the prejudice against the police. Everybody else talks about prejudice, but certainly most people don't like law enforcement until they need them.
That's true. Yeah. If you take a look at how this job has changed, when I came out of the academy, I went to work with 18 bullets, 6 in a revolver, 6 in each speed loader. And every deputy that walks out of my building today is carrying somewhere between 46 and 52 rounds, depending on what mags and what model Glock they're carrying. They all have rifle-graded bulletproof vests. They all have body cameras. They all have pepper spray. They all have tasers. They all have Narcan. They all have the body cameras that they're recording everything. They got computer towers in their cars, assault rifles in their cars, shotgun in their car.
Those things
And-
are good, but all those rounds just to walk, say, the streets, and you work upstate, you don't work in New York City or a major city.
No, but you add to that now that law enforcement's being assassinated.
But from what I understand, at least locally here, most officers don't go to the range and don't practice except for once a year when they need to qualify. And I've read how very often when there's a shootout between good guys and bad guys, most bystanders are usually shot by the good guys because they don't practice enough. So is that why they need the extra bullets, because they're apt to miss a lot?
No, that's not why they need the
This
extra
guy's
bullets.
a joker. And his sense of humor is a bit dry, so sometimes you don't pick up on the fact that he's joking. But, it is true. They said the Columbine kids, because they played those video games where they practiced on and on to get their coordination going, that they didn't miss, whereas a lot of times police from the same distance will miss a lot more. And that's scary. You hear stories about, I know there was one in New York City where a police officer shot trying to get a bad guy who had just shot somebody, so he needed to be removed from the street as fast as possible, but missed him and wound up getting somebody else, and fortunately the person didn't die. But, these mishaps happen, but I think you're saying they need the extra bullets because there might be another school shooting or something where they need to get in there the same way a SWAT team would, and they have to effectively be armed as well as an emergency SWAT team.
Look, the weapons that you run into on patrol have changed in the last 30 years. You don't want to stop a car and have a firefight with somebody who has a semi-automatic handgun, and he's got rounds coming at you as he's maneuvering and you're taking cover, and all you have is 6 rounds in a revolver.
exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
True.
Well, you have a story of trauma of somebody who was very high up in your town. I think you had said it was a police chief, and what this person who never had any counseling or anything dealing with the trauma he must have had over the years, that it finally culminated in him committing a horrendous crime.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, sure. I mean, I met you, and I met some of your colleagues because I have become a speaker on post-traumatic stress disorder and specifically law enforcement suicide. And the reason I began that endeavor is I lost one of my best friends on August 18th, 2009, 9:03 a.m. when he sent me a text message advising me that he was going to kill himself, told me where he was, and he asked me to protect his wife. And he did. So, in hindsight, as I look backwards on his career, he went to the academy in 1978, and in the early 1980s, while he was at work, a known enemy that he had generated because he was a police officer.
Within the police department, is that true?
No, the person that did this to Dennis's family was not a police officer.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but he was an enemy to Dennis
Okay.
through Dennis's work as a police officer.
Well, that happens. You make enemies in the community if you're the one that has to come to the house for a domestic dispute, or you're the one that has to put the cuffs on somebody, and there are certain groups of people and certain families that don't like the police, the outlaws of the community, and the police have to deal with it, where the other neighbors have the privilege of at least trying to avoid it.
That's true.
Okay, so Dennis made an enemy in a civilian in the
He
community.
made a few enemies. I think every officer that does their job makes enemies, but he made some enemies. And one of those known enemies, who was also a convicted felon, paid Dennis's house a visit when he was working midnights. He lived in a rural area, and he brutally attacked Dennis's wife. He attempted to kill her with a shovel. Left her with a permanent traumatic brain injury and missing an eye. The attack failed to kill her, and he passed out drunk in their bed. She woke up nude and bloodied, missing an eye, with no recollection of what had occurred. She made it to a phone. She called 911, and we sent our closest car, which was Dennis.
You mean the husband?
That's correct. He was the first responder.
Did you know it was his wife at the time that was called?
This happened prior to me being a police officer.
Okay.
So he showed up to his own doorway
Oh, gosh.
and sees this known enemy in his bed at his wife's nude and bloody, missing an eye. So he demonstrated great strength because he did better than most people would have done.
Yeah,
under
I
those
mean, my thought,
circumstances.
and I'm sure Mace feels the same way, is put as many bullets in this guy as that he will never have the possibility of getting up. That would be a normal reaction.
Yeah, but
Well, I'll tell you what, Dennis,
start with
he
the
did the
feet
right
and
thing.
slowly work up.
Okay. Yes, okay.
Dennis
He
did the right
didn't do
thing
that.
because that's the kind of guy he was.
Well, he was also following protocol, and it shows that he was your typical good cop, I mean, to the extreme, and that he did what he was supposed to do, and he didn't use any excessive force, even given that his own wife was the victim, and that this was
Yes.
a known enemy.
And as ugly as this was, it got uglier as it played out because a talented defense attorney and an incompetent district attorney who ended up losing his job
Who
because he
lost
lost
their
his
job?
case. the district attorney,
Oh, okay.
because he lost this case. There was a full acquittal.
So what?
How did he lose that case?
Sexual assault exam kit was negative. Perhaps he was too drunk to perform. The weapon that was used was a weapon of opportunity that was inside the house. The shovel was already inside the house. It was Dennis's. There was no evidence of forced entry. There was no recollection at all of the attack by the victim because of the traumatic brain injury.
That's unbelievable.
It really is. Because if she had been killed, I mean, you know, the dead person can't testify, but the person is still convicted on. Often circumstantial evidence is enough to give someone the death penalty. And they're not a convicted felon. It might be their first crime. Especially since he had a history of adversarial relationship with this police officer in the community. So he planned to attack the wife, otherwise why was he there?
Tim, could you hear Gene then?
Did we lose Tim?
Did we lose Tim, Dan?
Okay, I can't hear him. Can you hear him?
No, I can't.
All right, well, I mean, the story he's telling, maybe he needs a break.
He lost connection. He's
Okay, you'll work to get him back on
Yeah,
then.
I'll try.
Okay, in the interim, I mean, we can reflect on this, yeah.
Definitely. And your earpiece is out of your ear.
I took it out of my ear because I can hear anyway. I
Oh,
could
okay.
even hear Tim with it outside of my ear.
I'm struggling
But when
to
it
hear.
was in my ear, I was feeling like I was going to lose some of my hearing and then need a hearing aid.
But if we turn it down for you, I
Then
can't hear
you
at all
can't
because I
hear.
am hearing
Yeah.
impaired.
That's because probably you put too many earpieces in your ear.
No.
What'd you put in your ear?
No, it was chronic ear infections at birth when I was young.
Oh,
That damaged the nerve. Then when I did morning radio down south,
sure.
when we did remote broadcasts in the public, I would have the headset on my left ear and off my right so that I can talk to people with the wireless mic and still hear the cues from the engineer in the studio. Then also in the production studios when cutting spots, I would have the headset on, but then I was shooting guns in my backyard and not using ear protection.
Well, that's
Which all just piled on and made it
all
worse.
of it, yeah.
But it was mostly the infections causing nerve damage.
Causing a sensitivity, and then, you know, just about everybody, at least in the old radio or even television programming, has suffered some hearing loss after the years of doing it.
Yeah.
They don't go for disability, but, you know, that is a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also a lot of rock musicians, which is why now they wear earplugs.
A lot of any kind of musicians.
Yeah.
You know, I went to a club one time, and my friend who happened to be with me was a musician. And I said, gee, you know, this band is very loud. How do you stand it? He says, oh, I have tissues in my ears. I have tissues in my ears since I was playing. So I learned to do that in some of the clubs.
Well, I wear earplugs when I sing karaoke. But that's just so
You know,
I don't hear me to suffer with everyone else.
I figured it was something like that. Does everybody else wear earplugs also? Do you pass them out before you sing?
Hell no.
Don't they say Mace is going to sing now? Here's the earplugs, but don't tell him about it. Clap at certain times. You know,
No.
they don't do that. You sure?
No, you can always tell those that drank too much and who didn't when I sang. Those that didn't drink enough don't like my singing. And everyone who loves my singing, you know, cut them off. They drank too much.
So that means alcohol makes you a better perceiver of music, of of fine music.
Well, I'll take the compliment, but no. They lose their ability to distinguish.
Okay. I was trying to be nice.
Yes. So how did you meet Tim?
I met Tim when we had a party at Russo's in Howard Beach. You know, John Gotti's old
Yeah.
neck of the woods. I grew up in Woodhaven, pretty close by. But anyway, we had a party there for everybody who was going to be involved in the local post-tour processing program. It's going to be done nationwide. My practice partner is big in doing that, along with other police or ex-police, along with mental health
Saturday Night
professionals.
Live? Ex-police.
No, these are real police, real
okay.
ex-police. and at least as far as I know, and some civilians too, and some mental health professionals. And what they're going to set up a program is that, at the end of the day, they're supposed to take a shower. A lot of them don't because they want to rush home to their wives and kids and everything, or husbands and kids. But what happens is, instead of the shower, they're going to shower their brain by talking about everything that happened today.
I am told that Tim is back online with
Okay,
us.
hey, Tim, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Tim,
Yes.
you back?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I don't see him, but can we hear him?
I can see and hear you.
Yeah, because Dan keeps turning our monitor off so we can't see.
Well, he doesn't want us to look at the monitor. Remember what my eyes did the first time I was on one of the public access programs when my eyes were going all over? And you had that tape?
I thought that was the drugs.
No, no drugs, believe it or not. I don't need any drugs. Maybe I should take the drugs and that would straighten out whatever is naturally drugged.
Could be.
Yeah, probably. They used to, in the 60s, they did experiments with LSD to cure people that were terminally mentally ill. They didn't have any of the psychotropics at that time.
Yeah.
I wonder how well it worked.
I was going to ask you.
I didn't hear any negatives or positives, so obviously it didn't make them worse, which would have been hard to do in those days before psychotropics, but it didn't make them better. I saw one psychologist was testing LSD, and he didn't test it on himself. He was very cowardly. He was in a restaurant, and guess who he gave it to? His wife. And you see the two of them sitting at the bar table, and she's going, "Oop, oop," like she sees bubbles, coming up. And he's documenting all of
And
this.
did she know he was giving her that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, she agreed. Spousal privilege. Yeah, she agreed to be his guinea pig.
If spousal privilege still existed, people wouldn't be divorcing. Oh, different privilege. I'm so sorry.
You're talking about the days like under English common law when the children and the wife were the property of the man and he
They're
could do
not
whatever he
anymore?
wanted. No, except
Since when?
It used to be in the Bible Belt that a man was allowed to beat his wife with a stick only as big as his thumb. A lot of them have pretty big thumbs. That's where the saying rule of thumb came from, that he was allowed to discipline, i.e. use corporal punishment on his wife. What do you think of that? You lived in Virginia a while, didn't
I
you?
got to tell you, at least he wasn't allowed to use major punishment, only corporal punishment.
Well, what would the major punishment be?
Now, that would be major.
Okay.
Heavily outranking corporal.
Oh, okay. I understand. Actually, one of these abusive men was a colonel in the Air Force.
Who used the candlestick in the living room?
Yeah. Not good. Not good at all.
No.
Bad man. Even if he had a good job.
Well, there was a colonel in the Air Force who went to jail for, brutal killing of his wife. And 4 years later, it wasn't him who did it.
Who did it?
I don't remember now.
Oh, God, I'm just thinking in the present story, if the person who did it still wasn't sleeping on the bed, so drunk, passed out after he damaged the wife, and she had no memory. Probably our friend Dennis, who Tim was talking about, to add insult to injury, he would have been the one who was tried and convicted for it. He was the husband. He came home and claimed that he found his wife.
The spouse is always the first suspect.
You work from the inner circle out.
Yeah, well, sometimes, though, they take too narrow a view too soon, which
Yes.
overlooks all the other possibilities, and then all the evidence goes cold, and when they realize they were wrong, it's pretty tough to go back and reconstruct
is.
the case. Which is why you always got to keep a much more broader perspective and leave your options open as you go.
You really should. I mean, if a woman has any insurance on her husband and suddenly she finds him dead, and we're only talking about the kind of insurance that would be used to pay for the funeral, and she wants to get the insurance right away because she needs to pay for the funeral right away. She's like the first, and unless there's somebody else that's really up there, she's the only suspect. Now that doesn't seem fair.
No, it isn't. Or, if it's $1 million policy, I see that as fair.
It doesn't even have
But
to be $1 million,
when,
yeah.
roughly $10,000-$15,000 policy will only cover burial costs.
That's it, yeah.
Except most of the time, the funeral homes have to be paid way sooner than when the insurance pays. Because the insurance usually takes well over 30 days, and the person is interred long before that.
But sometimes if the funeral home knows that it's an undisputed death and that the insurance is coming, they will wait that long as a courtesy.
Yeah, and there also, I think, they have forms that can be signed for a direction to pay from the insurance company.
Assignment.
Yeah, assignment, thank you.
Hey, I'm a
Straight to the-
psychologist. I work with assignment and insurance all the time. So that's more than half my job, unfortunately, but yeah. Whatever. Whenever there's the slightest little bit of motivation, the spouse, the girlfriend, the boyfriend is the first suspect in a killing.
Yeah.
So in this case, since it was an outside enemy of the husband who was a cop who came home and found his wife, yeah, he would have been the first suspect.
And it's funny because there's a situation where I know these, and I'm just forgive me for thinking slowly so I don't risk giving away identities. But
No problem.
a spouse tends to fall down a lot. And as often, said, when mad at the other spouse, I'm going to call the police and say, you did this to me. So, of course, my instruction was, get online, go to this, spy shop and stuff, and get cameras in every freaking room. I said, just remember, you can't record sound, but you can record pictures. I said bathroom and bedroom. I don't do criminal law, but I would assume there's a greater expectation of privacy.
Yes.
You can't put a camera there, but cameras everywhere else and at the staircases. So this way, she falls down the staircase. She's mad at you, calls
And you're
the cops,
nowhere around.
and says, whether you're home or not, she says you did this. You got that defense.
Documented.
And make sure that it records to a cloud, not a hard drive at home, where,
course.
because the cops may not give you a chance to retrieve it and show them.
Yeah.
So then she goes and finds it and destroys it.
Yeah, of
But
course.
on the cloud, you can access it from anywhere.
Well, since our subject today is about police and post-traumatic stress disorder, those body cams are really to protect the police as much as, if not more than, to protect the public.
Oh, absolutely. From what I understand and speaking to some cops with the body cams, they love it. Complaints have way dropped because you can't make it up. And the few complaints there are, the majority of them, the body cam tells the story and it's done. And there are bad cops out there. Let's not overlook that.
Oh, sure.
And the ones
But
who
they're less likely to be bad if they know they have the body cam on.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the situation where it protects the public.
And they're probably the ones that really hate the body cam, but I think most
Yeah.
people at work, you don't want a body cam, not because you're going to shoot somebody or beat somebody up, because most of us don't have that opportunity at work, unfortunately or fortunately, but because you might be goofing off, you might be talking to your friend about something that you don't want the boss to know. Well, whatever it is, they find in general that these cameras have protected everybody. It's
Yeah.
the best thing around,
Oh,
now
yeah.
that we have the technology.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty hard to lie when there's a recording right there. Although there are those that analyze it and say, you can still, it's how you interpret it.
That's true, context.
Context, yeah, but I don't know. It seems to me that, when the camera shows that the guy came up to the cop with a 2x4, and then the cop, disarmed him and knocked him out,
Right.
it was warranted. It's pretty hard for the guy to say, I just went up, came up to him and he popped me in the
I
face.
asked him directions and he came over and did that. But then, I know that with evidence, if you're going to put in part of a recording, the other side has a right to demand you put in the whole recording.
Yeah.
You can't take part of it
That's
out of
only fair.
context. But what about, in a lot of cases, it seems like there was one in Minnesota where a woman from Australia was shot by a cop when she had heard somebody breaking into her house, and the body cam wasn't working. How does that happen? It seems too convenient.
I would more think that it's not that it wasn't working, it wasn't on.
Okay, but why would he deliberately turn it off? Or does he have it off all the time? Or did somebody destroy the evidence? I mean, there would
It
be some...
raises suspicion.
There would be sanctions if somebody's body cam was off all the time. I'm sure they would check into that, I would
Yeah,
think.
but I'm sure there are ways, like with everything, you can cause it to look like a malfunction.
Yeah, okay. So
know?
I guess there is always that possibility, but it's still more protection for everybody.
Yeah, nothing would ever be 100%. But to me, if you can get the protection up to 85, 95%, that's awesome.
That is.
And the 2x4 thing actually happened to an MTA officer I knew years ago in the subways.
An actual officer or an employee? Because now they
It was an
don't
officer.
attack officers in the
It was an
MTA,
officer.
they attacked employees.
And it was like a homeless person, came after him with a 2x4. The guy is highly trained in martial arts. And the guy that came at him had a broken jaw. He was, taken off duty. He was charged and everything. And luckily his lawyer was able to get the surveillance tapes from the cameras
From
in
the subway, right? Yeah.
Right, and then that was the true story. He was fully
Yeah.
reinstated, back pay, everything.
Good. I mean, that's the subway cameras. I rode the subways to high school and college in the 70s when they really were dangerous because there were no cameras. Now, just about everything, if you don't have somebody in there with a smartphone recording a fight or whatever it is, you have cameras all over the subway. Crimes against women have gone down once the technology got to that point. It makes a big difference. And you don't have to worry that somebody's going to get you on that camera, say, picking your nose or whatever it is. You have to go through a lot of it. Normally, they don't go through it unless there's an incident reported, and then they go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, around the time of the incident.
But it would also seem that they should have, just like you have it, the office complexes in the city, where they got the cameras all over, security cameras,
Yeah.
and there's an officer or two at a desk where, the pictures are coming up and watching to make sure things are okay.
He or she is monitoring them as they happen, the closed circuit.
Yeah.
Although
Because-
often they're not monitoring them that well, just like
I
in
know.
stores. I mean, that's, but when it's on tape, you can check it later.
Yeah, always,
Yeah.
but, I'm thinking more for prevention
Yes.
than to the conviction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cameras are wonderful,
In that sense, yes.
in many senses.
Yes.
The internet, you can Google up all kinds of cameras.
How about the husband or the wife, wait a minute, who hides the tape recorder or the video recorder and will get the other spouse cursing or, just being themselves during day by day, and then, they can take whatever parts of it they want out of context and they play it for the judge if the judge will listen. A lot of times the judge won't. And they say, see, there's my crazy wife, there's my crazy husband. That's negative.
That is, except I often do suggest cameras and recordings to protect yourself. Because one, when you're recording, as we said before with the bad officer, who knows it's all on tape, so now he's not doing the bad stuff.
Okay.
You know that you're
Really bad stuff.
you're being taped.
Yeah.
So you're watching yourself and what you say, but then you can protect yourself because there have been too many situations over the years. And one of my favorites years ago, guy went up to take a nap. She went to the kitchen, got a little saucepan, rocked herself in the face, called the police, and he was dragged out of bed in handcuffs.
Okay, but let's just say, what if one person, let's say one spouse is a lawyer, and he or she knows how to provoke because they cross-examine the opposing side, and what if they know how to push their spouse's buttons so that the person doesn't get physical, but that the person curses, let's say shows their bad side?
Well, here's the key, though. Just cursing is meaningless. Normal animosity is not supposed to have any impact.
In front of the kids?
How old are the kids?
Under 18.
Well, it shouldn't be done, and people get more upset by it now, but the kids hear it at school.
Of course.
Normal marital animosity is not supposed to be actionable at all in court, but too often normal marital animosity is being sanctioned in court,
Yes.
which they
yes.
technically don't have the
That's what I'm
jurisdiction to
talking
do.
about. That's what, in family court, though, family court they can extend their own jurisdiction outside of an actual civil court more
Technically,
so.
no, they cannot, because family court is a legislative CPLR Article 4 court. They don't have equity jurisdiction. They are limited jurisdiction.
They don't have equity jurisdiction?
Nope. They are limited jurisdiction, very narrow in scope, but yeah, too often in implementation, they push the boundaries. And there's been a few
Yeah.
cases from the appellate division that says, oh no, they were within their rights to do that. And it's like, a constitution says otherwise. But remember back after 9/11, the old joke, Iraq needs a constitution, give them ours, because we don't use it anymore anyway.
Well, we do have it. It's better than not having it.
That's
Just
very
like the
true.
cameras.
But now you're dealing with the reality where I was just going with the joke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But usually, with a lot of these, I had this one case where they both had cross filings against each other. There was pick up
Which
and drop off.
divorcing couples are very good at doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pick up and drop off was at the police precinct.
Oh, gosh.
So-
Not even curbside?
It's on the police precinct.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So, cut a long story short, according to him, she got violent and was screaming. According to her, he got violent and was screaming, pushing her, trying to yank the baby from her, back and forth. Well, I subpoenaed the desk officers from that day and the surveillance camera tape.
You mean from the court or from the police station where they
from the
were?
precinct, yeah.
Okay.
Well, interestingly, according to those two officers, nothing happened. They spoke a little, they were polite, everything was quiet, they exchanged the kids and they left. And the tape verified
The
that.
tape verified it, so it wasn't
That
just the
nothing
officer's
happened.
testimony. Yeah. Okay, all right, so then hopefully whoever it was that lodged this false complaint was sanctioned in some way.
Well, no, because there were cross complaints against each other.
Okay, all right. So they're both liars. Each one's trying to say that the other one is the bad guy or the bad girl.
Yeah. I see it way too often.
Oh, yeah. Well, you come up with the solutions as a family attorney as to how to protect oneself and protect the children.
Yeah, well, as a family law and divorce attorney, it's not just protecting my client against the other client, the other lawyer in the court. It's also protecting my client against him or herself.
Yes.
Because one thing that often happens, and too many other lawyers let a client do it. This long history of litany of the moneyed spouse at work all the time, but now should have custody because the other spouse was always a drug addict, alcoholic, abusive to the children. It's been going on for years.
You mean even though he and she stayed at home and presumably had more time with the children, the time was not good at all? And the money spouse had to go out and work hard or work two jobs to make up for the lack of the other spouse.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
It's more like...
I've seen that with males and
yes,
females.
But the situation I'm talking about is more, if this person is always under the influence of drug or alcohols and is physically abusive to the children, why did you wait 10 years of this to file in court? And why are you leaving those children with that person all the time?
It's a good point.
And why haven't you done anything about it? So, maybe that person is abusive, but you're completely neglectful, so the children belong in foster care, and not with either one of you, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are so many cases where somebody says, I had to leave my husband, my wife, whatever it is. But if you're leaving the children with this violent person, and the children are presumably less able to defend themselves than you are, then you're being irresponsible and neglectful.
Yeah.
But, that's the thing. There are couples that don't want to file against their spouse because they say, look, I have to go to work. Whatever it is, if I file against my spouse, what if they take the kids away? How do you prevent that? Because I know people that will tolerate all kinds of abuse against them, the kids, or anybody, just not to have to risk that protective services is going to come in there and take the kids away and put them in foster care.
But they're
with
not going to and take the kids away, put them with strangers, if you don't allow it to go on for years, and you call them to come in, and you put that other person out of the house.
You have to have a plan for how you're going to provide a safe situation for the
You
kids.
keep that abusive person in the household. Yeah, you're going to lose the kids.
But
Why?
what if that person owns the house along with you?
So
As
what?
most married couples do.
So what?
Who do you kick out of the house?
The abusive one gets thrown out.
Okay, and the courts will
Because
do
what-
that immediately. So
Yeah.
that's the solution then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And usually the ones that are afraid, well, guess what? Elephants don't marry giraffes. That other person is no, innocent.
Exactly. They might be better than that person, or it might be the kind of thing where if that other bad person, as the catalyst, wasn't around, the first person would be okay, alone and with the kids. But once that other person comes into the picture, all the bad traits of both of them come out.
Well,
Yeah.
you're the shrinky dink.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
shrinky dink. The dinky shrinky. Okay.
But in situations of severe physical domestic abuse, the one who puts up with it forever before doing anything about it usually ends up in every relationship afterwards, after that first one, with an abuser.
Yeah.
And and though there are abusers that will abuse everyone they're with after, there's a lot of abusers that after that situation is over, they don't abuse again because there's a passive-aggressive aspect to that personality of the abused who goes with someone who's never abused before and triggers it.
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm not
You're
saying all of them. I'm not saying all of them.
Provoked it. Then you've still
I didn't say
got-
provoked
no,
it.
No, I know what you're saying, though. They are somebody who's very hard not to abuse. Look, I had one woman come to me, okay? Her husband was abusive. He would supposedly tell her to do something and she wouldn't do it. And he beat her. She doesn't listen. I mean, this is what you have to do.
She just didn't listen.
Right, exactly. That was his idea. But then one time, I gave her directions to get to a different office, and she swore she would follow them. And then she came like a half hour late. She didn't follow them because she knew a different way. But she had told me she would, although at the time that she told me, she didn't say, listen, I can't follow them. She just yesed me to death, which she probably did with him, and then did it her own way. There's sometimes, the same way with child abuse, the person who gets abused often has some kind of mental, physical disability, or they've been so abused that they don't speak up when they should speak up. There's something about them where they're more likely to get bullied by anybody. However, that doesn't anyway justify the bully, because you know
No,
why?
it doesn't.
If you had a person like that in your life and you're a healthy person, you get out of the relationship. If you say, gee, I feel like hitting that person, you remove yourself. You control yourself.
Over the years, there are several times I've had relationships with women who had prior, abusive relationship in marriage or whatever it was. And almost every one of those times I dated a woman like that, there got to be a point where I saw myself wanting to do exactly to that woman what she had said her ex-husband did to her, and I ended it and left it before
you did the
I
right
would do
thing.
it. Because I'm not going to do it, but there was just something about that personality, that somehow affects someone who wouldn't be like that to just turn like this
Or
mental
someone
switch
who would
to bring
keep-
something out.
Someone who had some latent aggression that they would never bring out towards a woman that they were close to as an adult. That somehow this particular person or this particular child, like let's say children with severe ADHD, who are also violent and throw tantrums, they tend to get abused more than a child who quietly listens. It doesn't excuse what the adult did.
True.
So you have to work with the abusee, let's say, to say, okay, well, this is, if somebody starts to get angry, get out of the situation. You teach them what's a fancy term in psychology, maintaining assertion when somebody else is aggressive. And you teach the aggressive person that physical aggression, if it's not in self-defense, and I mean real self-defense, if you can't remove yourself, then, is never appropriate.
I remember years ago in family court this case where I represented the guy who was respondent, and it looked like the marriage was going to break up. It was like The second time, she had him in on order of protection.
Against him.
Yeah, I ended up lecturing both of them. And
You
I'll tell
were
you
the
about this.
counselor.
I will tell you about what it was, I want to jump. So months later, maybe a year or two later, I was at the Circle M diner or whatever, and I ran into the wife in that couple, who I did not represent, who recognized me and thanked me to no end and said her and her husband are listening to the advice I gave them to the T, and everything is wonderful. Here's what it was.
What'd you tell them?
Very
You did
simple.
arbitration. As a divorce lawyer,
No.
you could still do arbitration,
Yeah, but
even
no.
though you didn't set out to
No,
do that.
what it was they would have a fight, whatever it is, and he would get mad. And he saw that he was going to get in a rage. And he'd say, I'm leaving the house, I'm taking a walk to calm down. She would get in front of him, block him, not let him out, not let him calm down. And that's when he would explode. And, she understood. He's warning you, I'm going to explode. I need to calm down.
Well, don't block his
Unless you
path.
want to be beat, you let him go and cool down. And she understood that. And he understood the minute he first started feeling this, leave the house. And they got along beautifully afterwards.
Either that or put in a back door so she can't block both of them.
Yeah.
Because if he tries to just assertively brush by her as he is bigger or move her, that's still some degree of coercion, which can be classified as physical abuse by
But
some.
it went beyond just trying to move her.
Well, you see, that's, look,
But
I was
which is
working
right.
with a man whose mother-in-law used to block the door. And he used to tell me, I'm going to pick her up by her white hair and put her there. And he said one time he picked her up physically, because he's a strong guy, and he moved her there, and she wasn't hurt, and nobody pressed charges. So, I mean, that is something you might do. Let's say if it's a child.
but
you can let
that's
them-
also something where you want to have surveillance cameras, because her blocking him in is also illegal.
That's an assault. What is that an assault?
I
If
don't
somebody
do
blocks your way?
I don't remember criminal law because I don't practice it, but it's something like,
It's unlawful imprisonment. It's false
Bingo.
imprisonment. See?
yeah,
It's fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. False imprisonment can be criminal with medicine, and it's also a tort.
and as long as you
can
do
sue.
not use excessive force to defend yourself, you legally can. And it would seem to me to just pick her up and move her without doing her any harm
Especially if you're stronger. And you
should be
can-
legal,
Yes.
but with the gender bias, once you end up in court, he's going to get in some sort of trouble, which is ridiculous. Do we get Tim back yet, Dan?
No, unfortunately not.
He's lost to us?
Once he gets his laptop back, we'll try it again. He's doing it from his phone, as you guys can tell.
Okay.
Okay, all right. He was doing it from the link on his smartphone, I guess. Yeah.
That phone wasn't so smart now, was it?
On his dumb phone?
Dumb phone.
Oh,
Well, we
God.
can always take a moment to thank our sponsor.
Yes. Thank you.
You're very welcome. This show is being brought to you by the law office of Mace H. Greenfield, 631-815-5577. I believe the number's at the bottom of your screen, along with my website, Divorce and Family Law. Check out my website. Go check out my bio. I think you'll all get a big kick out of my background and history. And back to you, Gene.
I was just thinking something.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right. If you pick somebody up, let's say somebody's blocking your way, and you pick that person up and you transport them, isn't that kidnapping now? Kidnapping has been really loosened up as far as the definition.
Well, I
and
don't
you
think that
moved
would
them
be
from here to
kidnapping,
here.
'cause-
You transported them, technically. You picked them up and
I
you
think you're
transported
stretching
them.
it.
If you transport an object with the intent to deprive the other person of, or somebody of the object,
But it's not
that's
depriving them
larceny.
of the object, it's escaping from false imprisonment.
Yes.
defending
Oh, you're
yourself.
escaping from false imprisonment. Thank you. You're my attorney. If I ever get accused of falsely imprisoning anybody.
Okay.
I'm a libertarian, though. I tend not to do that. If you want to go, you can go. If you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was. And you're probably glad to be rid of it anyway.
Ooh, yeah, there was a meme in Facebook. If you love something, if you love someone, set it free, and if it doesn't come back, it saves you a divorce retainer.
Okay. That would be your interpretation. Yes, it's true. Definitely. You know, I have more on a serious note, I have more couples coming to me now for premarital counseling. And it's of a kind that
Tell them, don't do it.
well, they're not forced into the counseling. Like, let's say the Catholic Church does what they call Cana conferences. They will have the couple, before they get married in church, they have to go through a certain number of sessions, confronting what might be issues in their future marriage. Like, what if one of you wants to have 5 kids, the other doesn't want any, or, you know, if you're different religions, whatever it is. But these people aren't forced. They're choosing
I
to
can
come.
prove you wrong.
No?
No, the Catholic Church doesn't believe in, mixed marriage.
Oh, now they do. The
do
more
now?
liberal ones, they will allow
Okay.
a priest and a rabbi to both be there.
I thought you were going to say to get married. I don't think they're that liberal yet.
A priest can't get married, and that's what some people say is why they molest the kids, which we disagree with, because if it was, let's say, that they wanted a woman, they could find a woman. If they wanted a gay relationship, they could find that. The only thing that still requires somebody to go under the table is pedophilia. You know, using the file on your feet instead of your nails.
Yeah.
But we know what it really is, and it's nothing to laugh about, yeah. But certainly now the religions have eased up a lot as far as who can get married.
Originally,
properly.
priests in Catholicism could get married. But in the Dark Ages, they were using the power of their position to sleep with the wives and daughters in the communities. And that's when the Pope decreed that the priest cannot marry and have sex to protect the wives and daughters.
Celibacy.
Right, and
I
then...
didn't know that. I thought the
and
Pope had
then
a few kids tucked away too.
Almost every Pope had illegal children.
Yeah.
Illegitimate children. But then what happened was the priesthood became the place to send your misfit children, who weren't man enough to, be a soldier or, work the land, or the ones that were gay, or where they were on their own to hide the fact that they're gay. So you ended up with many in the church serving the church as an escape from societal consequence of their life. And it only stands to reason abuses will happen. And any position of any kind for anyone where there is such, embedded trust gives a breeding ground
Yeah.
to abuse.
Like psychologists,
Abuse, theft.
therapists, anybody, yeah. Divorce lawyers.
Which is why I believe the more titles someone has, the less you trust them until they prove themselves. You don't automatically trust them.
I think it's what Sally Jesse Raphael used to call alphabet soup letters. The more alphabet soup letters they have after their name, the less you trust them. And I have quite a few, and you have quite a few, so that means nobody should trust us? Can we trust each other?
I don't know, can we?
I don't know. Is there honor among...
Thieves? I'm a lawyer checking what seems
among
to
co-conspirators. I don't know, we're laughing evil laughs now. Halloween isn't for a few months. Your eyes are rolling. Oh gosh, put your hat back on. You look more distinguished.
Thank you.
Yes. Although I still like the first show we did with you with the devil horns.
Yeah, they actually weren't devil horns.
They were.
They were
red.
hunting
And
horns.
Okay. They look like devil horns. They were red.
Yeah, and I thought I liked that theme of devil horns, so I didn't correct you then.
Oh, okay.
But it's from the Warrior
But you're
Death.
correcting me now.
Correcting you now, yes.
Why are you correcting me now if you didn't correct me then when you had them on your head and we could see them and the audience could see them and the audience
Just
could
be
then
glad I don't
say
have a
whether they
switch
thought they were
Bigger than
devil.
my thumb to correct you with.
Oh, you don't? No. You mean like a shock, like a cattle prod?
No, a switch, the...
Well, if you have an
branch
electric
from-
switch to correct me with, you can give me a
That's
shock
true.
every time I said
Yeah.
something you didn't like and I wouldn't say too much.
Ooh. What's for next week?
I have access to the shock tools.
Do
I
you?
think I do, yeah.
I might enjoy that.
You might enjoy that?
Yeah.
Your hair will stand up, though. We'll
I-
have to take your hat off at that
Back in
point.
the old days, I had an aquarium, and the hood lamp was metal, and the light, and there was a short in there. So if there was a puddle on the floor when my hand was in the tank, I really enjoyed it, so I started putting water on the floor before my hand went in the
no.
tank to work on it. And my arm would go, and it was like really cool and awesome.
That happened, something similar happened to me. Some aversive therapy, which supposedly works, if you combine it with positive therapy. I was on the phone with a friend, and I was talking about, it was something pretty emotional to me, and normally I have a pen in my hand. So I would put the pen in my mouth. But this time I had been shaving my legs, and I had the wire part of the shaver was down here, the wire part in my hands, and I put it in my mouth as if it was a pen and like sucked in. And I went, oh! I got such a shock down in my tongue, down my throat, for like a good 6 months. I conditioned pretty easily. A good 6 months. Every time I went to put a pen or something in my mouth, I would stop. And then I did it again,
You did
and
it
the
again?
punishment went away. No, not with the wire.
Oh, okay.
I made sure it wasn't a wire. Eventually the punishment wore off. But the fact that it would last with me for like 6 months when I was always, as I worked, holding the pen in my mouth, and that it's amazing that the shock worked like that. So,
And do you still put pencils in your mouth now?
occasionally, yeah,
Is
occasionally.
that an oral fixation?
I guess it must be either that or sometimes, like, let's say I'm trying to open the door and I have my hands full. I might put something in my mouth to use my mouth like as a third hand, and then use the one hand is free. Is that a fixation or is that normal?
No, that is juggling.
That's juggling, okay.
It's when you don't need to juggle that you're putting things in your mouth.
Now I
That's a
don't do that
fixation.
much because I don't use pens that much. I use smartphones and they're a little harder to fit,
Let's see. See if your phone will fit in your mouth.
Okay, where's your phone? I don't have my phone here. Mine's in my bag over there.
Yeah, but I was using this as a cue card.
Yeah, uh-huh. We don't have cue cards. We talk from our heads. We don't have a teleprompter or anything in here.
No, but I was using it for the intro to know so much about Sheriff Tim.
Oh, sure. I would need it for something like that, too. My memory isn't what it was, say, when I was 20.
And to text our producer, what's going on, where's Tim?
Well, that
Why
I would
isn't
have
the
trouble
monitor
with.
on?
That's a lot of multitasking to text our producer while we're on the show,
Pretty good, huh?
saying, where the heck is our guest? We
Yeah.
lost our guest. He's
Oh.
listening, though. I'm sorry, Tim.
And speaking of that, I do want to let everyone know that neither Dr. Jean nor I will be here next Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, but our guest from last week, the one and the only David Tillery, will be guest hosting, and he'll be having some guests of his own. And then we'll be coming back on June 2nd, where we will be having Erica Irvin, a Hollywood star, and you can Google her up as Erica Irvin, or Google up Amazon Eve, that is her. And it's going to be a real interesting show. She's a transgender advocate. It's going to be really awesome, as long as the technology works and we don't lose her like we did Tim. Look at the producer just sitting there all like, not my fault.
He's ignoring us, I think.
I think so.
And we actually have two producers on staff. They're both ignoring us
Well,
and
technically,
communicating
engineers.
with one another. That's right, engineers. Well, engineers are supposed to work the technical part, aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't drive choo-choo trains anymore.
Well, some do,
They drive the MTA trains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
if they stay awake.
If they... Doesn't the
if
train
they're-
drive itself
Or
even if they don't stay
they're
awake?
really working and not ghosting the overtime.
Not that any of the union members would do that,
Oh, no.
of
Although,
course.
from what I was told by someone, one of the lovely things about their contracts, if you work on a diesel train and a non-diesel train, in one day, even though it's in the same 8 hours, you get 2 8-hour shifts of pay.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow, they know all the tricks.
And personally, if I was in a position, I would attack that contract as against public policy and being a harm to
It
the
is.
public.
It is, because our taxes are paying for these people to do that, and then when they get a real job, they can't do it,
True.
because they never had to do it.
Now, don't get me wrong. Some of the MTA people, like the maintenance guys, do work really hard. But the ones with doing the abuses, I don't care if they work hard or not, whether it's legal to the contract or not, I don't like it.
Right, right. It's a loophole in the contract, which is not fair and against public policy.
Yeah, and, you know, the pay salaries of some of the upper echelon executives at the MTA? Are you kidding me?
Upper echelon executives anywhere.
Yeah, except I don't have such a problem when it's private sector.
Okay, the
Okay.
taxes aren't paying for it.
Taxes aren't paying for it, and private sector, they are working busting their butt. And they didn't move up the line kissing ass, because even if it was some sort of connection, if they couldn't do the job, they were not going to continue to advance.
Somebody
They
had
would have
to do it,
stayed at
yeah.
their plateau, maybe still gotten some more money, but they wouldn't keep moving them up if they're not going to do the job right.
I think we're going
We got to wrap it up, folks.
Yeah.
For Dr. Jean and I, have a great day, have a great tomorrow, have a great Memorial Day weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.